A very good evening and welcome to another edition of Newsfirst Weekend Primetime News. I'm Ramesh Rugalbanga. Let's start off with the look at your headlines.
Executive Council of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka calls on the Chief Justice to resign. Parliament will convene on Tuesday. Statement from the Deputy Speaker. Dr. Harsha De Silva assumes duties in his deputy ministerial portfolio. Former Minister Mervyn Silva files a complaint with the CID over fraud and corruption.
On to our first story. President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visit the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara today.
President and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged in religious observances at the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara this evening. Subsequently, the Mahasangha, headed by the chief incumbent of the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara, Venerable Professor Kullupitiye Mahinda Sangarakkhita Thera, chanted Pirit and blessings were invoked on the President and Prime Minister. A group of ministers and MPs was present for the occasion.
The two leaders of the main political forces of this country are present here today. This is the first time that this had taken place. We can consider this as the start of a Lichavi rule in this country. I made one wish at this location, that is, if you are elected president, then the next phase of the development of this sacred ground will commence. As a government that operates for the betterment of its people, we need to take all steps that are required for the development of the Sri Sambuddha Sasana. The Honourable Prime Minister spoke of the development of this sacred ground. I wish to say that we will implement the second phase of development. Therefore, we will face all the challenges ahead of us in this country and bring about reconciliation amongst communities and religions and build a strong economy and a successful country filled with peace. That is the responsibility and duty of all.
Later, the chief incumbent of the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara, Venerable Professor Kullupitiye Mahinda Sangarakkhita Thera, blessed the President and the Prime Minister and the Dhatu chamber of the temple.
On to our developing story tonight. The Executive Council of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has called upon Chief Justice Mohan Peiris to tender his resignation in order to preserve the honour and integrity of the judiciary. The decision reached by the Executive Council of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka was announced during a media briefing held in Colombo today.
The Bar Association of Sri Lanka in its statement says that there have been reports in the media that Mohan Peiris, who functions as the Chief Justice, was present at Temple Trees from prior to dawn on the 9th January 2015, along with some others and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. The Bar affirms that a member of judiciary should not even be present in such a place. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka says that although its executive committee requested the Chief Justice to deny that he was present at Temple Trees, Chief Justice had not responded to it as yet.
We sought advice from the Inspector General of Police, the Criminal Investigations Department and the Attorney General on how we need to proceed on this. The Attorney General has responded to us, adding that an immediate investigation needs to be launched in this regard. Also, the Criminal Investigations Department responds that statements will be recorded by all those involved and conduct an investigation. We expect that he will tender in his resignation, protecting his self-respect and to preserve the honour and integrity of the judiciary.
Deputy Speaker of Parliament Chandam Veerakkudi says that Parliament will convene on Tuesday. Speaking News First, the Deputy Speaker said that a discussion on the future programmes will take place at the party leaders' meeting, which will be held on Monday.
The government members along with the Prime Minister will be seated on the government side, while the opposition members led by the opposition leader Nimal Siripala will take their seats in the opposition. The day's proceedings will be discussed at the party leaders meeting that will take place on Monday.
Meanwhile, General Secretary of Parliament Dhammika Dasanayake said that measures have been taken to arrange office facilities for the 27 cabinet ministers of the new government. He added that no official notification had been made on the seating arrangement of the MPs.
Deputy Minister of Policy Planning and Economic Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva says that the country must be taken forward on a social market economy. He made this statement after assuming duties at the ministry this morning.
Dr. Harsha De Silva engaged in religious observances before assuming duties at the premises of the ministry this morning. Several ministers and officials were present at the occasion.
We hope to make a few changes to the economic policy of this country. The concept of this policy will be to take the development to households. We will take this country forward through social justice based on a social market economy. We call this a social market economy.
Social market economy. Lakshman Yapavewardena addressed a public meeting at his residence today.
A public meeting was organised at the residence of former Minister Lakshman Yapavewardena at 10 this morning. A group attending the meeting had travelled to the Makandura town in motorcycles and moved into a crowd staging a demonstration. Tensions grew upon the arrival of Southern Provincial Councillor Pasanda Yapavewardena at the location of the demonstration. Later, the group, including the provincial councillor, returned to the meeting at the residence of the former minister.
Now, whom does this government belong to? It is us. Why? Because the majority is us. We will vote for the government while sitting in the opposition. We will support the cause. If it is to change the constitution, we will vote for it. We said that the executive presidency needs to be changed. We will vote in favor of it. When we go into an election, the leader of our party is the president. Our leader is His Excellency the President. The president is providing leadership for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Then together with the former president, we'll take the SLFP forward. I am not insane to join the UNP. They are saying no to Lakshman Yapavewardena, who set up the light poles of the expressway in Makandura in the Makandura town. My father has no company to his name nor a factory, so there are no files on him. We have no fear.
Subsequent to this meeting, the former minister, accompanied by the group, visited the Makandura town in foot and addressed the public.
A protest was organised against former Minister Kehli Ramukpella in Manikinna today.
The protesters arrived in Manikinna from Narampanava and engaged in a demonstration. The protesters urged the president not to include former Minister Ramukpella in the new government.
Kehli Ramukpella was a parasite in the Kandy district. He is expected to support President Maithripala Sirisena in a bid to cover up for all his fraudulent activities. That is not an issue for us, but the Kundasala area does not need him again.
Former Minister Vincent Dias says that he was amazed after witnessing footage of temple trees yesterday. The former minister made this statement recalling memories of the status of temple trees in the past.
Yesterday, a special discussion took place at Temple Trees with the participation of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, ministers from the United National Party and the MPs. Subsequent to the discussion, the group toured Temple Trees and the grounds and inspected the inventory. Former Minister Vincent Dias recalled memories of the status of temple trees in the past and the operations of the rulers back then.
I recall the times that the Bandaranayakas lived in temple trees with their children. Although they lived in temple trees, it was not very famous. Later, leaders such as Dudley Senanayaka, Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe used the temple trees. Yesterday, I witnessed footage of the interior of temple trees. When the footage was aired, there were several others who were watching it with me, and it was shocking to see how the former head of state had lived there. The reason is because the ministers and MPs around the head of state unnecessarily gave him priority. He was not hailed as a political leader of a public servant, but he was hailed as a king. I feel that they lived there in a manner where they will never leave the temple trees.
මේගොල්ලෝ අර්ලියාගා මන්දිරෙන් එළියට යන්න නොසිතපු විදියටයි ජීවත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා මට හිතන්නේ.
Staying in local news, former Minister Mervyn Silva arrived at the Criminal Investigations Department in Colombo today.
මට පෞගිය කාලේ ගෞරවනීය මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ ආණ්ඩුවේ
Over the past, while I was in the government of Mahinda Rajapaksa, Basil Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa hurt me. I am being accompanied by my lawyer. The file contains everything against them. The former president too is aware of their wrongdoings. What happened finally was that I had to play the role of Don John Dharmapala of Kotte in Beliatta. They might cause harm to my life after this.
Don Juan Dharmapala ki චරිතය රඟපෑ. මම බෙලියත්. සමාජයට මේකෙන් පස්සේ මගේ ජීවිත හානි කරයි.
The former minister went on to say that he made a complaint with the CID over the homicides and fraud and corruption that took place during the previous administration.
මේ අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ පළවෙනි එක ලංකාවේ සිදුවෙච්ච සියලුම මිනිමරු.
I arrived at the CID. The mastermind behind all the murders, including the murders of Lasantha Wickramatunge, Bharata Lakshman Premachandra and Ragama Lokusiya, was... He was aware of all these murders.
සියලු ඝාතන සිද්ධ වුණා. මට ඕන චෝදනාවක් දාන්න කියන මං ඇල උත්තර දෙන්න ලෑස්ති.
Make any allegation against me. I am ready to respond. I don't have allegations against me as much as the national television. During the election, both the electronic state media institutions operated in a very disgraceful manner. They destroyed media ethics. If not for Sirasa, there will be nothing. We need to be thankful.
සදාචාරයක් කෑවා. සිරස නැත්තම් මොකක්වත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි සුදුවන්ත වෙන්න ඕනේ ඒකට.
A group of employees attached to the Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation arrived at the commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption today.
A producer and an assistant director of the SLRC were among those present at the commission today to file complaints over irregularities that had been taking place at the Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation.
There are many producers and officials within the Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation. Our allegation against these persons are losing our audience from the SLRC. There are also financial allegations. The programs which tarnished images and reputations of individuals in a degrading manner with the use of false propaganda ended on the 9th. The national television, which was branded as going shopping for the government, is no more in that position. President Maithripala noted the manner in which the media will be used. Over the recent past, over 90% of the employees were under much pressure over various issues.
Parliamentarian Sunil Handunethi has written a letter to President of Sri Lanka Cricket Jayantha Dharmadasa to prevent the disappearance of certain files that are connected to the fraud and malpractice said to have taken place within the organisation.
In the open letter released to the media, Handunethi notes that information has come to light over the SLC's connection to a number of large-scale fraud and corruption that stirred much controversy in the recent past. The letter adds that this was discussed within the Committee on Public Enterprises in Parliament and that information has come to light that there is an attempt to secretively remove all those responsible from the SLC. MP Handunethi adds that measures be taken by the SLC to prevent files that are important for this investigation from being misplaced. MP Sunil Handunethi in his letter strongly emphasises that if the files are misplaced, legal action will be taken against all officers and authority of Sri Lanka Cricket.
Officers attached to the Galle Police inspected 2 pickups that were provided to Parliamentarian Nishantha Muthuhettigama.
The 2 pickups which were parked at a location close to the residence of the MP were inspected by the police based on a tip-off. After the inspection and after the police officers left the vicinity, 2 individuals claiming to be the drivers of the MP took away the pickups. This is what transpired subsequently. The police said that it had received information that these 2 pickups were prepared to be handed over on Monday.
UNP Provincial Councillor Harshan Rajkarna says that preparations for parliamentary elections should be made after the 100-day programme. Harshan Rajakarna made this statement at a meeting held to educate the party supporters in the Millatta area in Kirindiwala.
Now the President and the Prime Minister of this country, initially from two parties, have joined together to do what is needed for the country, to establish good governance and to make this country a country for everyone to live without caste and creed differences through democracy. This is happening for the first time in the country. We must support this. We must support this, and after supporting the 100-day program, we are ready to go into a general election.
UPFA parliamentarian Rohita Abegudunawardana says that he has already commenced preparations for the next election. He made this statement on addressing a meeting in Kalutara today.
The Kalutara district party meeting of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party was held under the auspices of MP Rohita Abegudunawardana.
We continue to win. Respected clergy, we won 29 elections. Who did we assault? We never assaulted anyone who worked against us. We didn't make false allegations. So the general public of this country clearly sees this difference. The majority of the parliament belongs to us, SLFPs. We will be seated as the opposition. Our preparations for the next election will commence today.
Minister of Food Security Gamini Javicram Pereira met with officials of several institutions affiliated with the ministry.
Officials attached to Sathosa, Lanka Sathosa, the Department of Food and the Paddy Marketing Board were present at the meeting. Attention was drawn towards the issue at a number of institutions attached to the ministry at this discussion, which was aimed at ensuring food security.
බීලුණු ගොවියන්ගෙන් ලැබී ගත්තේ වති පරිසර. ඒකෙන් සහ ප්‍රමාණයක් නරක වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ කොච්චර නරක වෙලා තියෙනවා 1.121 million. Cost, that's the wastage. Kilogram. මොකද හේතුව? අරකට තියෙනවා සර් අපි මිලියන 4.5ක් ගොවියන්ගේ. හේතුව මොකද අලවිකාට බැරුවද මොකද එහෙම උනේ? එකක් සමහරක් ඒවා තිබ්බා වැස්සට තෙමිච්ච ඒවා. අපිට ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි ඒවා රිජෙක්ට් කරද්දී තවත් අපිට බලපෑම් ආව ගොවීන්ගෙන් මේක මේ ඇයි එහෙම කරන්නේ අනිත් ඒවා මේක ගන්න ඕනෙමයි කියන්නේ. අපි වීක් එකක රුපියල් 35ට 36ට 32ට 35ට ගත්තේම අපි රුපියල් 45ට හාල් දුන්නා. අය මොනවද බීම වරකක් හදලා නේද මත්පැන්? ඒක අපි සම්බන්ධ නැහැ සයිල හදනවා. හා? ඒක සම්බන්ධ නැහැ හදන්න පුළුවන් සර්. ආලෝලි හදනවා දෙනවා ඒකටත් දීලා දිනවා නේද? අපි එහෙම කියලා නැහැ අපි කියලා දෙන්නේ සහල් මොල් වලට දීලා දෙනවා හාල් වලට පත් කරන්නේ. ඒක තමයි අපි කරන්නේ. අපි ඔක්කොම ඔඩිට් කරලා චෙක් කරනවා අපි ඉනිෂියේටිව් එකක් අපි.
We will conduct an audit on everything. We will check all of it. I appointed a team comprising retired senior DIGs. They are here as well. I will give them 10 days to inspect all the institutions and submit a report to me.
Subsequently, the minister expressed the following views to the media.
This is a waste. What has happened here is a curse. How can we avoid this? There are trade unions in every institution representing every party. I hope that all these officials and trade union representatives will form a committee. Then all the corruption will be exposed.
In an interview with NDTV, former Army Commander South Fonseca said that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa had moved 2,000 troops into Colombo 3 days before the results in an attempt to stage a coup. However, Mahinda Rajapaksa has denied these allegations.
NDTV reports that according to Fonseca, troops brought in from the Northern Command were deployed in and around Colombo in two circles, one in the metropolitan area around Temple Trees and an outer circle that covered the Election Commission's office. Fonseca in the interview with NDTV has said that if any security is needed, the Inspector General of Police has to be informed by Elections Commissioner, adding that no rules were followed in this case.
In an interview with NDTV, MP Namal Rajapaksa, the son of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, says that close-knit ties between his father and his uncle, the Defence Secretary, was responsible for Sri Lanka's military victory over the Liberation Tamil Tigers, or the LTTE. Let's now listen to some of the excerpts from this interview.
In hindsight, do you feel that was a mistake? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, see, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I mean, if you want to look at fault and blame each other, you know, of course, someone who wants to do that can look at it as a mistake. But at the same time, there were people, and at the same time, everyone believed, when we were winning the elections, that the war was ended because of this bond within the family.
That's very, very unusual and odd argument to make, that the war was won because it was a family-run government. I mean, how?
No, it's not because of the family-run government. What I'm saying is
the coordination.
Not because of the coordination. I mean, any government, any leader needs someone who they can trust as the Secretary of Defence, right? So with that, it was my father was able to take strong decisions as an individual, along with the leaders of the government. But the leader needs to have someone who they can trust.
But surely, in a modern democracy, you need to trust your colleagues, not necessarily family. That's a very, if I may say so, feudal argument, Namal.
No, I mean, see, we trusted each other.
Okay.
But if the argument that I can ask you is it a crime that I became president's son?
Opposition leader of the Southern Provincial Council, Bandulal Bandariguru, says that even though certain individuals are preparing to don new attires, they would not hesitate when it comes to revealing their corrupt activities. Bandulal Bandariguru expressed these views and more at a meeting in Aknimana.
Mahinda Rajapaksa Mahatya balayen deddi
when Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa was in power, the members of the UNP joined the SLFP as a source of strength to the president. Therefore, no matter how much calculations they make and express their support to the president or try to concept their corruption by wearing a new attire, we will not take a step back in revealing their true nature in terms of corruption and thievery.
And up next we have Action TV.
A petition which named a group of persons, including the Divisional Secretary of Ampara, was heard before the Ampara office of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission yesterday. The petition filed by a resident of Ampara also named as respondents the Ampara Zonal Irrigation Director, the Ampara SSP, the Ampara Branch Manager of the State Timber Corporation, the Ampara Regional Director of the Forest Conservation Department and the Grama Sevaka of Kotavehera. The petition was filed against the written order by the Ampara Divisional Secretary sent to the Grama Sevak Officer of Kotavehera to permit a private timber corporation to carry out the felling of a kumbuk tree within the vicinity of the Kotavehera Grama Sevaka Division and within the forest reserve that come under the purview of the Irrigation Department. Following the written order, 2 officers attached to the Ampara Divisional Secretariat, along with 2 others who arrived on a cab owned by the Ampara Divisional Secretariat, were apprehended by forest conservation officers when the kumbuk tree had been felled and its timber to be taken away. Action TV revealed this on the 12th of August 2014. The timber confiscated by the forest conservationists and later handed over to the State Timber Corporation was valued at 600,000 rupees. The wildlife officer of Ampara and the manager of the State Timber Corporation were enlightened on the Divisional Secretariat's written order permitting the felling of the tree to be taken away by a private timber company, only after the Action TV presented them with a copy of the said written order. The petitioner, who points out in his petition that this is an act of abuse of the Divisional Secretary's power of authority, noted that the failure to enact the law against the said Divisional Secretary or to take disciplinary action against him has violated the fundamental rights of the petitioner as a citizen. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, which heard the petition yesterday, named the Newsfirst correspondent based in the area as the party of the petition. This was after taking into consideration a letter addressed to the SLHRC from the said Divisional Secretary on the 3rd of September, where he objected to participate in the first hearing, stating that our correspondent has exaggerated the felling of the said kumbuk tree as a means of slinging mud at him. However, the Divisional Secretary arrived at the hearing held yesterday stated that he had functioned within the limits of his official portfolio.
The State Timber Corporation, which has been named as one of the respondents under the petition, had not been summoned at the hearing. In addition to that, the absence of all the other respondents except for the divisional secretary thereby, this has been an obstacle for the said inquiry. My view is that they couldn't make a proper decision, and that since there was no legal officer present here to clarify if this is legitimate or not, what I think is this has been turned into a mere joke.
The select trustee yesterday notified that the petition will be heard again on a later date.
A school teacher charged with sexually harassing a student has been released on surety of 150,000 rupees. The suspect was released on bail after being produced before the acting magistrate of Dambulla.
According to area residents, the suspected teacher had attempted to sexually harass a 14-year-old schoolgirl who had been on her way home. Subsequently, the residents of the 40th Mile Post area in Pannampitiya Badulla thereafter bound the teacher to a tree. Police said that the pornographic images were found on the suspect's phone. The acting magistrate who released the suspect on bail ordered him to attend court hearing on the 16th of...
Welcome back to the news. Now, gold is at its highest price in the international market in 4 months. An ounce of gold was priced at $1,277.16 in the American market. The price of gold has increased by 4.5% in the international market. Now, this is incidentally the first instance after August 2013 that the price of gold increased as a percentage within 1 week. Now, just last year, a 16-year-old teenager walked across the stage to earn her master's degree in intelligence analysis, as well as the world record for being the youngest person to do so. This young lady, Eugene De Silva, has plans to become the U.S. Secretary of Defense, a goal she set when she was only 5 years old. Newsfirst Sulfik Farzan sat down with Eugene this week for an exclusive interview.
She earned an award from Johns Hopkins University for verbal and mathematics testing when she was just 7. By the time she turned 15, she was wrapping up her master's degree in intelligence analysis, has a handful of books published, taught herself how to play piano, and now holds the title of being the youngest person in the world to earn a master's degree in intelligence analysis and the youngest ever graduate from Harvard at the age of just 16.
Ever since the age of 5, I wanted to be the U.S. Secretary of Defense. That's my main goal in life. I've always loved the intelligence field, and especially we're living in a technologically dependent society. All around the world, people use social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so information is being shared on a daily basis at faster speeds than was previously possible before.
One of her most prized achievements is implementing a module to detect deception, which she used to interview a rehabilitated terrorist.
But he's a rehabilitated terrorist, so he's someone who was involved in a terrorist organization, and he was at one of the top levels there, and I interviewed him to see the way in which he answers questions, and I applied my model, and it proved to be successful, so I continue to do those types of things now.
At her young age, she continues to enjoy her studies and share these words of encouragement.
I always say just to do what you love, because I love everything that I've done, and it's made my work so much easier, and it's not boring. Everything that I do is just so exciting for me.
Pope Francis celebrated Mass today in the airport of Tacloban, where His Holiness prayed for the dead and comfort of survivors of Typhoon Haiyan.
I come toward the righteous.
His Holiness travelled to the central Philippine province of Leyte to see the devastation wreaked by Haiyan, the strongest storm to make landfall on record. Authorities estimated that around 6,000 people gathered in the airport grounds, creating a sea of yellow raincoats.
Capable of walking. Nuestro hermano mayor, solamente guardo silencio.
Many had travelled from nearby provinces despite warnings of heavy rain. The Pope himself wore a raincoat over his vestment. The Pope's day trip to the coastal city, 650 kilometers southeast of Manila, will also give His Holiness another opportunity to speak about climate change ahead of a major document on the environment His Holiness is due to issue in June.
On to news overseas now. British police are to step up security in Jewish areas of the country in response to last week's attack in Paris, which killed 17 people.
Britain's top counter-terror police office confirmed yesterday that they would increase their presence and patrols around synagogues and Jewish schools. Last week, the Community Security Trust, which provides security advice to Britain's estimated 260,000 Jews, said police in London and Manchester in northern England had agreed to increase patrols at synagogues and other venues over the next days. The CST published a statement yesterday saying Jewish people should not panic. Last July, the CST said anti-Semitic incidents in Britain had risen amid fighting between Israeli forces and Palestinians in Gaza. Meanwhile, senior British Muslim, Jewish and Christian leaders held an interfaith unity gathering at London's Regent Park Mosque yesterday in response to last week's attacks in Paris.
Mitt Romney, the 2012 U.S. Republican presidential nominee, said on Friday night that he was giving, quote, serious consideration, unquote, to his near-term future, his latest signal that he is gearing up for another White House run.
Romney, who would be working his third presidential bid should he choose to run again, said his wife, Anne, had been asked in recent days about the prospect of another Romney presidential campaign. Romney was speaking at a dinner function at the Republican National Committee's winter meeting on board the aircraft carrier USS Midway, which is permanently docked in San Diego Harbor, California. Romney was given a standing ovation when he appeared on stage with his wife. A few members of the crowd cheered when he mentioned the 2016 race.
Giving some serious consideration to the future, but this I know. We can win in 2016 as a party, in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House, if we communicate a clear vision of where we're taking this country, what we believe in. Those principles I've described are among those that we're going to be fighting for, and we're going to win, and I can tell you this as well. Regardless of what happens in the primaries and the political process that goes on, Ann Romney and I are going to be fighting for our nominee and make sure we win back the White House because the American people deserve it, and we're going to make it happen. Thanks, you guys.
Play was abandoned in the third one-day between the Black Caps and Sri Lanka at Eden Park in Auckland. Persistent rain throughout the afternoon saw New Zealand stranded on 145 for 3 after 28.5 overs before play was finally called off. Focus now shifts to the fourth one-day in Nelson on Tuesday with the series level at 1-1.
Sri Lankan captain Angelo Matthews won the toss and put the Black Caps into bat on an overcast and muggy day in Auckland. It didn't take Kiwi captain Brendan McCullum long to get into the action, smashing a 6 on the third ball he faced and another on the 10th as he charged down the wicket and pulled it over the short fine-leg boundary. Fellow opener Martin Guptill in contrast looked shaky early on, giving the Sri Lankan bowlers a number of chances, including a dropped caught and bowled chance for Nuwan Kulasekara. With McCullum gone, Guptill began to see the ball better and he and Tom Latham set about consolidating. The pair put on 99 runs before Latham chopped a ball onto his stumps and was gone for 42, off the bowling of Matthews. Guptill brought up his 50 with a 6-over long off, the first time he had scored a half-century in 9 innings. His confidence and timing appeared to have returned only for the Auckland heavens to open up. The rain let up briefly, which was just enough time for Ross Taylor to be trapped in front for 3. The players soon followed him back into the changing room, and this time there was no stopping the Auckland weather.
And that's a wrap of primetime news for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Uzal Bandara. Good night.